Prof, let's start with you. What's this election about?
This election is about change and about the fulfillment of the promise of this country that the founders of this country charged us with, to fight disease, to fight poverty, and to fight hunger. We are now well into 60 years of independence, and many of those challenges are still with us. There is one candidate in this election, and one only, who has devoted his entire life to confront those challenges, but also to confront the challenges of governance. He led, as you all know, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga led the second liberation, which was to liberate this country from the shackles of political despotism. I think that fight was won in 2010. He's now leading us into the third liberation, that of the economy, of empowering our people, of trying to conquer those three enemies. And I think my fellow panelists will agree that on our opposite number, Mr. Ruto, has no history of fighting for anything in this country except for himself.
Okay. Havi, what's this election about? And also just to respond to what Prof has spoken about, that perhaps the UDA candidate has no history of fighting anything.
Well, you see, the premise that Prof has painted is very erroneous. But I must agree with him to a certain extent. This election is about change. Change from what to what? In his view, the election is about change for economic empowerment. Who between Dr. William Samoei Ruto and Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga offers the most viable model upon which to anchor social economic change. Now, if you are to interrogate that primordial question, you'll come to the conclusion that this election, looked at it from a very panoramic perspective, is about service and rulership. Here in UDA, we have promised a very elaborate mechanism upon which to empower everybody to earn a living, to play his or her role in social economic development. On the other side, you will find ideas that are far distanced from now, where, for instance, the candidate for president perceives a restaurant run by a university graduate as a demeaning responsibility. Now, therein lies the question. And unless and until we interrogate these two serious questions, we may get lost in the noise that has been propagated by our opponents.
Okay. All right. Mole, for you, what's this election about?
Thanks, my brother, is that this election is squarely about issues. And the biggest issue we have right now, which need to be addressed, is the cost of living in this country. Cost of living has become way beyond many Kenyans. The cost of schooling our kids, it has gone beyond reasonable doubt. And basically, it is an election whereby we are looking at the best suited candidates to make sure that integrity upholds as per the constitution of this country in this republic. So there are many, many challenges, and I believe that the outcome of this year's election will be based on how we approach the issues Kenyans are raising, which are very pertinent. The issues of housing, the issues of infrastructure, the issues of water, the issues of how to deal with unemployment in this country, the issues of youth in this country. It's quite a big issue. So for me, it's basically an election to deal with specific issues touching Kenyans. And that's why sometimes we look at things in a very different way, and I feel a bit absurd when we have people giving us models, economic model, bottom up. Is it up, bottom, whatever it is? It does not make sense for somebody.
Havi is here, don't worry. Havi is here. He's
Yes.
promised to clear all these
Yes.
up by
And
tonight. So,
I had the running mate this morning. He couldn't explain that bottom up in a radio call, radio station this morning, whereby he was speaking his own vernacular language. So if we can't do that, surely, what are we talking about, Prof? Here? We're saying we're looking at leadership come 9th of August 2022. Leadership which is tested, integrity, and based issues. Basic issues, not
but
economic.
you sit in a very interesting position. Is your party leader still going to be on the ballot? Let's just get that off with you.
You had us yesterday very clear and sound as political leaders from the region. You had the professionals from the region urging the party leader to reconsider his position. And I can attest to you with Professor here, we are going to put something on paper and pen very quickly.
Okay, let's go circle back to these issues, because we should not lose the track that now Kenyans have to crystallize what this election is about. On the question of, and just to pose what UDA has posed on the campaign trail, that Raila Odinga has finished his mandate, if you like, fighting for constitutionalism and that sort of thing is all well and good, but it's history. Like, he has nothing new to offer. How do you answer to that?
Well, first of all, let me say that those who do not learn from history are condemned to repeat it. So this notion that history is not important is nonsensical in the extreme. We will not be sitting here, but for our forefathers, but for the things that this country gave us, but for the freedoms that the freedom fighters gave us, but for the 2010 Constitution that was fought for. You see, this election is not about promises, empty promises, and it's not about models that have been borrowed or sort of plucked up in the air by individuals who cannot even explain them because they do not understand what they have borrowed. Stale ideas, okay? What we propose to do within the Azimio movement is to create a true welfare state. We've made a number of proposals on the table that are reachable, that will address the kinds of issues, sort of kitchen table issues that my friend Stephen is talking about, which include things like giving 6,000 shillings a month to the most vulnerable families, providing access to health care, providing the youth with employment, capacitating the Juakali sector, and so on and so forth. By the way, the past is always prologue, by which I mean that if you want someone to deliver you to a safe harbor, you look at what they have done before. You don't look at what they are promising you. You look at what they have done before. If you look at the history of my candidate, he has delivered before, Mr. Smart. So when you ask these questions about history and so on, look at what he has done before and look at what he is promising to do going forward. The ideas on which we are running in this campaign are ideas that are proven, that they are tried, and they are tested, not just in this country, but across the world.